Hello, hello, hello. This is B. Wendy Jackson, your lovely host of the Empower to Empower You podcast. I am so excited to be here once again to share some information with you that is insightful and inspirational and as well as encouraging. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Empower to Empower You podcast is about all things Jesus Christ, mental health, anything to help you become the better version of yourself. I have had amazing guests, and I am so honored to have Ben Dickey here. Ben has worked in the addiction and mental health field for over 13 years. He is so dedicated and passionate to having or to getting patients placed in treatment for substance use as well as co-occurring disorders. And today we're going to have a conversation about beneath the craving, overcoming addiction. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, how are you?
I am well. I'm encouraged. I love to tell people I'm encouraged.
That's
Dave
right.
Ramsey
God
has
is
a
good.
saying. Dave Ramsey has a saying. I'm going to steal that one too. He says, "Better than I deserve."
We're too
Yeah,
anointed to be disappointed about that one.
I love that. Yes, I love that. Well, tell us a little bit about what's life giving in this season. What's life giving in this current season for you?
Gosh, I sometimes have to pinch myself. I have my voice was I had some voice issues this weekend, so that's why I'm a little deeper than normal. But yeah, life is better than ever. I tell people all the time, I complained a couple of times that throughout my life, and nobody listened anyway. So might
Right.
as well might as well not complain. I have a lot of great things happening in my life. God has put some amazing people into my life, and here recently I met someone that has just really brought value to my life, and that's really cool. As I do them, and so yeah, I am I am riding the cloud, I guess.
Yes. Well, I'll celebrate all of that with you for sure. Well, I know you have a lot to share. You've been in this addiction field for a long time. Just for people that may not be familiar with that word or that term, how would you define addiction and what pieces of addiction would you like to cover in our conversation today?
We'll cover all aspects, but
Hmm.
you know, addiction, it's like a persistent echo of that first encounter with someone. It's like an unending chase for the pleasure, for the memory of that pleasure, even as that pursuit leaves reality further and further behind. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
And it completely takes over the brain. It is a disease. It is
Mhm.
1,000,000,000,000% a disease. And it
Yeah.
is no different than any other disease like cancer, diabetes, whatever. The good news, that's the bad news. The good news is it's 100% treatable.
That's
But
awesome.
if you don't treat it, it will not get better on its own. It will always get worse.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do, and that's why I don't give up on people. Sometimes they give up on themselves. I will not. I don't chase somebody. I believe that they somewhat need to be ready, but when
Mhm.
they are, they know that they can pick that phone up and call me, and I can get them into Woodland Recovery Center or wherever, whatever treatment center they need to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say publicly, thank you for your service. Thank you for
Yeah.
your service. Yeah, your heart. You're very passionate about this. It's almost like you carry the mantle. And obviously, this came out of your own experience of pain and addiction. And so you've been in recovery for now 16 years. Is that right?
That is correct. April 25th, last month.
Yes.
Sorry, I celebrated 16 years.
That is amazing. Congratulations. So, what was the turning point that made you or that led you to begin your journey?
The consequences finally caught up with me. There's a whole story behind that. I had been living a certain lifestyle for a very long time. Started out early age, and when I
Mhm.
was 30 years old, all of the consequences of the way I was living my life
Yeah.
um, caught up with me. I got in trouble, a little bit of trouble with the law,
Mhm.
and thank goodness today I don't have anything on my record. That's all
Mhm.
God.
Yeah.
There's no record of me ever, but The only record I have is just me telling everybody my story. But yeah, I did the things necessary to get my life back on track, and God took care of the rest.
I
So,
love that.
but it absolutely had to happen that way, because here's the deal: without consequences, there is no change. You
That is
know,
true.
if you don't have that pain, or that it's pain, really. If you don't
Yeah.
have that pain, then it's hard to get better.
Right. That is very, very true. What are some examples of misconceptions? I think people have a lot of misconceptions about addiction and recovery. What are some examples of those that you would share today?
To this day, people think that addiction still discriminates, but it does not.
Mm,
I will tell you, that person, that unhoused person walking down the street carrying a 40-ounce beer or whatever, that he or she is no different than the CEO who's sitting in the C-suite,
mm-hmm,
unable to set that bottle down, drinking in the morning, drinking, at lunchtime, whatever. There is no discrimination in addiction,
yeah.
and that's the biggest thing. The the other one, and it's so silly that people think alcohol is different than heroin. I
Right.
promise you, it's not. Alcohol is the worst drug.
Mm,
It it, it is the hardest drug and the most dangerous drug to
yeah.
come off of. So the detoxing from alcohol is dangerous. I have done CPR on people that did not make it
Mm,
because they were coming off of alcohol, and they were not treatment center I work for, but they had made it to treatment. That's how dangerous it is. That's why we have to watch these folks, and that's why you need to go to inpatient treatment. I know nobody wants to go. Nobody's like, oh my gosh, I got kids, job, this, that. I've got to do this, that, and the other. It was like, I've got to be there for my kids. And I'm like, you really weren't there for them. You're not there for them now. So let me
right.
get you cleaned up so you can be there for them for the
Mhm.
rest of your natural life. But inpatient treatment, that's what it's for. So we can keep you safe and monitor you while you're
Mm.
coming off of those hardcore drugs.
Yeah, that's such a good point because some people you glorify this. Let me take a glass of wine a day, every day, right? This is the way I decompress, and so for some people it becomes a habit, and before you know it, it becomes something that they can't live without.
Yeah, I'll get into I won't get
Yeah,
too deep because I don't have MD behind my name, but yes, sometimes you can actually become dependent,
right.
and it's like how we got into the opiate crisis. A lot of those people that became addicted to opiates, it was it was really no fault of their own,
Hmm.
and they didn't think of themselves as addicted, and maybe they technically weren't. They were dependent. They didn't
Hmm.
know that these drugs were extremely, extremely addictive
Yeah,
because the doctors didn't tell them. They were marketed as, "Hey, this is a less addictive drug. You can take this," but really it was.
right.
And then the physical withdrawal symptoms kick in. You just can't stop. You have to use just to not feel bad. That makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. For people that may not be familiar, what's the line between dependence and addiction?
I I
That's
knew you were going to ask that question. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
have that degree. Here's the deal. I don't necessarily care,
yeah.
because I promise you, you have to be medically detoxed. Either
Mm-hmm.
way, if you're
Hmm.
dependent or addicted, you're still gonna be the same treatment.
No, I agree.
So I, I don't know. I wouldn't go down that rabbit hole. I just know how to treat it, you
Yeah,
know,
that makes
and
sense.
that's
That makes
to get in with the MD and a good psychiatric nurse practitioner, and let's come up with a treatment plan.
I agree. So let's talk about food addiction because many people don't think that food is a drug, and not just food, but sugar. Sugar is toxic.
Yep.
Uh, Carbs. We live in a high carb, high sugar culture. The standard American diet, which is also known as a SAD diet. Let's talk about you have a uniqueness to your story, your own personal story about food addiction. Let's talk about the journey and what the turning point for you was.
Yeah, so I've struggled with food my whole life. I've been overweight my whole life, and now I took a drastic measure, but the food addiction was I always overate. I always overate. And I remember when I was in my addiction to narcotics, which my primary addiction was methamphetamine. Toward the end of my addiction, I had done everything. I'd done cocaine, weed, beer, alcohol, all of it. I owned a bar when I was 21 years old. So I mean,
Yeah.
I would do whatever you had. I pretty much would do it. But
Mm-hmm.
methamphetamine was the drug that kind of took me to a place I never really thought I would go. It kind of took me out. But
Yeah.
in that addiction, I can remember I would force myself to eat because a lot of people who do uppers, they're skinny, and I was not. I would force myself to eat because I didn't want anybody to know that I was addicted. And that's
Mm.
just that's sick thinking. And but after I got clean, when I went to treatment, I really got bigger. And a lot of people, honestly, a lot of people do. We call it the treatment. You go to treatment, you come out about 15, 20 pounds heavier because, most of these folks weren't eating correctly. And so we feed them 3 square meals a day. I'm like, oh gosh, this is good food. It's really good food down there too, by the way. But anyway, and then it just kind of manifested itself. It's called transfer addiction. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about my surgery. But I got up pretty big. I was 340 pounds at my largest. And I decided to do bariatric surgery. So I got the gastric bypass. And so that's great. A lot of the people in the food addiction world, the food eating disorder world will tell you don't do it. Like, that's not a great idea. But I know from working in mental health that I needed 3 things. I needed a therapist, which I got, and she is amazing. I needed a dietitian, which I got, and she got me through the first couple of years of this thing. And I needed a personal trainer. And my personal trainer, he was actually on the worship team at my church. He's really awesome, Sean Lloyd. Those 3 people, those 3 professionals are what radically transformed my life. So I'm 3 years post-op. I'm 180 pounds. I'm not going to stand up, but
I know you.
I feel good.
Yeah.
You can't even, my face was like this much bigger. Now it's this. But it was this. If I didn't change this and this would not have changed. And so,
So say that again for people that are going to listen and not see.
Yeah. So I had to change my head and my heart, my brain and my heart around, because it was an addiction. It was just like what I had already went through 16 years ago. I had to equate it to the same thing. And the therapist, I believe, you know what? I can't rank which one was more important. I don't want to do that. I will just tell you those 3 professionals. And by the way, those 3 professionals were paid for by not going out to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The amount of money I saved from not going out to eat all the time, I was able to pay those 3 professionals because they're not cheap. Let me just be clear. Insurance company doesn't always. That's a whole different rabbit hole. Insurance companies doesn't always cover, especially one-on-one therapy and all that. But that's what I had to do, and that was my plan, and I've stuck with it, and I still stick with it. I see my trainer 3 days a week, and I see my therapist. I try to see her about once every couple of months now. I've kind of spaced it out, and yeah, I mean, but I was a binge eater, so I would go to like a fancy restaurant and leave there after a 4-course meal and stop by Taco Bell on the way home. I mean, that's insanity. That's addiction at its core right there. And addiction is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Well, wow. I thank you for sharing that with us, and congratulations. That's an amazing story. Talk a little bit about transfer addiction, what you were about to explain.
Yeah. Oh, so this God has a funny way. Right after I had this surgery, I had about 5 people, and I still have them now, but 5 people right off the bat reached out to me. So after you have bariatric surgery, let's say you're not a drinker, and most of it was alcohol. Most of it was all centered around alcohol. So when you have a bariatric surgery, your stomach's smaller, right? So my stomach was very small, and I'd already been in recovery. I don't drink at all, period. I haven't drank in a long time. Except there was this one Vietnamese wedding where the guys got mad at me. I couldn't tell what they were saying. All I was told is if I don't take a sip of this beer with these guys, that they're mad at me. They think I'm disrespectful. Anyway, I took a little sip. It's fine. I hate alcohol. I really don't like it. I've never liked it. Yeah. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm a upper guy. But anyway, I did take one sip of beer at a Vietnamese wedding. So a lot of these folks, they didn't realize, they may have already been doing that glass of wine at dinner. Well, if you have a smaller stomach, if you drink 2 or 3 glasses of wine, you're drunk way quicker. You're under the influence way quicker. Yeah. And I had about 5 people right after I had my surgery that needed help because they had just transferred. Because if you don't change your head and your heart around food, you're going to find something else to fill that void.
That's right.
Something else, because the reason I had the therapist is because there's something about me that I did not like that made me want to change the way I feel. Yeah. And so since I didn't have food anymore, I didn't have drugs and alcohol, what was I going to use? And so that's where I got into therapy. I got into the underlying conditions of why did I overeat? And it goes back to some childhood. It goes back to this. It goes back to that. What is it? Being overweight your whole life it's hard. It's hard. It's very depressing. I'm a very, very funny, very outgoing person, but I got dark. I got some dark places just from being overweight. If some of them were darker than when I was living my addiction. Some of the days was darker than when I was actually out there addicted to hardcore drugs. So it was no different. And that transfer addiction is because they did not get to the root of what it is about them that made them overeat all the time. And so that's where you got to get to. But I put about 5 people in treatment within like the first month after my surgery. It was so crazy. And it was just God, because they just told me. I didn't ask them, hey, did you have bariatric surgery? These people came out within the first couple of minutes of me talking to them saying, hey, I had bariatric surgery. Does that have anything to do with it? I was like, yes, it has a lot to do with it. So kind of cool.
I resonate with that in terms of dealing with food since childhood. I believe that me overeating and binge eating, even as a child, struggling with obesity, food became a shield. Food became a shield. Like you pack on pounds as a shield to deal with unresolved hurt and unresolved pain and things like that. And I also had the VSG. I had the VSG. And you were one of the ones I saw at an event, and you were very encouraging. Some people don't want to share their story about bariatric surgery because there's some shame or guilt. I will tell the world, listen, this became part of my story, and it's okay. So I thank you even for your encouragement. You recommended Dr. Weaver, I believe. No, you recommended another doctor, but I had
Dr. Weaver.
He's amazing.
Which one did you have?
Dr. Virginia Weaver.
Yeah, that's mine. That's her.
Oh yes, I love her. I love her. Yes, yes, I love that. So let's get into the weeds of this, because offline, just in passing, because I see you at a lot of different events. we see each other at a lot of different events. And when we are overweight, I know for me, from the Caribbean, one of the cultural things, my parents did not know any better. They did what they knew best. But when I was overeating, I was told, Didi, eat all your food. Eat all your food.
Same. Clean your plate.
Clean your plate. And then I would get messages, oh, Didi, that's my family nickname. You're getting too big. You're getting too big. So that affected my self-esteem as a child. And even as an adult, there were messages of, oh, you're gaining so much weight. Now, but then as you start to transform and you take responsibility of your health, oh, don't get too small. Oh, you're doing too much. You're working out so much. And so what are some of the messages that you've gotten?
Yeah, it's the same. And I truly believe there's no malintent.
Mm-mm.
behind a lot of the things that people say. And it's family, close friends stuff like,
Yeah.
hey, I think
Yeah.
you're there. Like, stop. Just stop now. You look great. Like, stop. Uh, you don't need to lose anymore. Or, it, it's okay. I mean, I don't take anything personally. I don't, honestly, I feel so great. I don't care what
Yeah.
people say. It's gotten to the point. It's
Yeah.
gotten to the point where I am completely comfortable in my own skin.
Mm.
I feel incredible. I don't ever want to go back, but I also know, because I'm in long term recovery from the other stuff, if I don't do what I need to do every single day to maintain this way of life, you can absolutely put it back on, and not a lot. I don't know the percentages. I thought it was like 50% of the people put the weight back on after a few years, this, that, and the other. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff if you Google
Right.
it.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying, though. If you don't change your heart and your head, it's not going to work. And the surgeries, it was just a tool. That was
Exactly.
just a small, very small tool in
Yes.
the overall part of my health journey. That was just a little bit. The
Yep.
therapist, the trainer, and the dietitian was the three things that have gotten me to the where I am today and have helped me maintain um, my life. But yeah, the little things. Most of it's just people not understanding, being funny, and it doesn't bother me. But
Right.
it is kind of funny. It is. A lot of people. I got a really good friend that thinks everybody does actually. That thinks I look like Jason Statham now, the actor, and
You
I think that's
do.
hilarious. I know, it's funny. I go to Walmart or anywhere, especially here in Memphis. It's like, oh my gosh, Jason Statham, which is great. Hey, go ahead, tell me I look like. I don't care.
Absolutely.
I wish I had his money, but if I had his money,
Right.
it'd be even better.
Yes.
But it's okay. People just don't understand, and that's okay.
Yeah. 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 You're right. You're definitely right about that. For people that are maybe struggling with, overweight or obesity or just some type of addiction, and
Mhm.
they feel discouraged or they feel trapped, and they are like, I don't know that I can afford it. I don't have
Yeah.
the insurance. I can't see myself. I don't have any support. I can't leave my kids.
Yep.
They can't even see a way around addressing that. Let's start with substance addiction. What encouragement would you give to those people to get to
And
treatment?
yeah, substance abuse is a little different because
Yeah.
you know I hear those excuses every day, and I sometimes I have to get a little stern with people, and I am not a parent. 46 years now, I have not had any children, but I know exactly what I put my father through.
Mhm.
I know to this day what me and my sister's also in recovery, but I'm sorry, like when you're dealing with addiction, you're dealing with certain drugs,
Mhm.
you're not there anyway. You're
Mm.
not there for your job. You're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
If you're at a certain point, you're going to lose your job. You're more than likely going to lose your family. You're
Mhm.
going to lose it all. And most importantly, you're probably going to lose your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is life and death. I have, and it makes me very sad. I process a lot of this stuff with my therapist. I've had several people. I have text messages from people that are dead in this
Yeah.
phone because I don't delete text messages. I don't know. I guess I'm a hoarder, but I have text messages from people saying I can't go tonight. I can't go to treatment tonight, and I wake up the next day and find out they're dead. They have
Wow.
they have already passed away from overdoses or whatever, and I know several. That's so crazy that I know so many of these folks. And so when it comes to addiction, I I'm sorry. I'm going to move very quickly, way quicker than you would than you would like. But I'll also talk to you in a very very respectful, very calming
Mhm.
way, because there's also some that you can do in outpatient. There's some addictions. There's advancements in medications now that can help with cravings and all that. But I am absolutely going to push medical detox in residential, and then you can go into outpatient and go back to work. Some
Yeah.
people, and then we have outpatient with housing down at Woodland, where if you need longer term care, Woodland Recovery Center has oh my gosh, they have one of the best. Well, they have great everything, but their outpatient with housing program is incredible. And we're actually building a brand new inpatient facility right now. Like they're pouring the foundation this week. And so we're getting a brand new state-of-the-art 100-bed facility. We have a facility down in Mississippi. It's great, but I'm ready for a new one. I'm ready for a brand new.
Is that where Woodland is located in Mississippi?
Yeah, it's basically right there on the Memphis South Haven border. I mean, I think the back of the property is actually in Tennessee, so it's right there, right down 55 on State Line Road. But there's some really big things happening down there. But like I said, and don't be discouraged about having to leave or do this or do that. Y'all, we're not talking very long. You know, I'm talking about getting you away for a couple of weeks where you don't ever have to go away again. You don't ever have to be away from your family. You don't ever have to worry about losing your job. I'm going to make you, or I'm not, the facility and the program of recovery is going to make you a better parent, a better mom, a better dad, a better employee. You get in recovery, you're going to, where you're stuck in this little position that you're in. Gosh, it turns out I'm a great employee when I'm not on drugs. Who knew? When I started working after treatment, I can't tell you the amount of advancement that I had in the first month or two. I just kept moving up with companies. I started out at Lakeside Behavioral Health as a van driver. I was driving a van. And then 3 years later, me and the COO, we both, I won't tell his story, but me and him had similar past. We both worked in security. He became the COO and I became the director of outpatient marketing. In 3 years, I was in administration office 3 doors down from the CEO. And that's because I'm a great employee when I'm not on drugs. So, but that's the kind of life recovery gave me. And I can make this promise to you. Right. Will every day be better? Will every day be peaches and cream and pink cloud? Nope. Recovery's hard. It's very hard. But you know what's harder? Living your lie. Living that lie that everything is fine, because it's not. If you're addicted to alcohol or drugs, everything is not fine. And even if you're not to that point where it's just a huge problem, it doesn't get better on its own. It really don't. So that's where treatment comes in.
That's good. I'm thinking about if we were to look at it through a biblical perspective around faith, like a lot of times we think sin happens in isolation, that it only affects us. And that's not true. It affects everybody else. And addiction in the same way, being sin, right? Like according to the Bible, it affects not just you, but your entire family and generation. Is not done in isolation, for sure. Yeah.
It also affects what could you do? What could God put us on this earth I believe God put us on this earth for a specific reason. Yeah. And if you're not living up to God's potential, what are you doing?
Absolutely.
You could, that person that person right now that might be even the homeless person. Yeah. There is a purpose for his or her life. There is something that God put you here to do. And if you're addicted, you're not living up to what God wants you to be or who he wants you to be. So there's that too.
That's right.
My faith component came in a little. I grew up with it. Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to go into this. I grew up in the faith. My grandmother was a saint. Grew up in a little small town, Holly Grove, Cumberland Presbyterian Church in Covington, Tennessee. I lived 5 houses down from it, so I could walk or ride my motorcycle or 3-wheeler. And I walked away from my faith in my early teenage years, which is when a lot of people do. Honestly, if we don't get these teenagers connected, it's kind of rough to get them back. But when I walked away from my faith and I walked away from God, that's when my life went to hell. I mean, really, that's when I really started struggling. And when I came back into the light, is what I like to say. When God did for me what I could not do for myself, or he actually said, okay, Ben, that's enough. Yeah. But I said the words. I said, I need help. And that's all I said. I said, I need help. And he made it happen. There's a whole story behind that, but he made it happen. That's the gist of it. And now that I'm back in the light, I'm spiritual. I know there's a tremendous amount of people that have a lot of religious trauma. A lot of my patients do. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that people, I don't think organized religion necessarily hurt you. I think it was people.
People.
That's my belief. It was just people being people, because
Mm-hmm.
God didn't make us perfect, right? There was only one perfect person, and I'm not him.
That's
So it's okay if you're struggling with that faith component. Just try. Maybe
yeah,
just try or reach out, because God's always listening. You don't have to believe the way I believe, but maybe you need something bigger than yourself to believe in. And I hope
I
you
don't
find
think you can, I don't think you can recover or heal without faith
it's
in the Lord. I guess some people maybe leave something different, but I know
yeah.
I would be able to get through anything without my faith.
Same. I mean,
Yeah,
I rely on him too, but I know in my world, there's just those folks who, there's still so much pain, and
sure.
we can get you through that though. We can get you through that. I just joined the board of a place here in Memphis called Sanctuary Counseling Center,
Mm,
and they provide counseling for people who work in the church, work for the church, or work in nonprofit sector that need counseling. And they run into a lot of people who've had a lot of religious trauma, and so we can get through that. It's fine.
absolutely. Yep.
But there's something. You have to have something bigger than yourself, a
Yes.
God of something that's just a little bit bigger than you, that you can put some faith into. And then there's some other parts of the recovery program, Smart Recovery. I don't know a whole lot about it, so I'm not at liberty to talk about it. But there's some other programs for folks who just aren't there, because honestly, my job is to not. I live my faith through my actions and not my words. I'm not a preacher.
Mm,
I did go to seminary, but it was for my licensed alcohol and drug counseling. I
nice.
got the degree part. I never got the license because I made more money doing marketing than I would counseling. But
Yeah.
but anyway, you gotta. Where was I going with that? You got to find something bigger than you, and you got to find something that works for you, because my
Hmm.
beliefs may not be yours. And I know
Absolutely.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
My job is to get you clean and sober, and if
Mhm.
that brings you back to God, that's great. My role in life, what I believe God has put me here to do,
Mm.
is to get you clean and sober. And if you happen to get back in touch, and I hope you do, get back in touch with your faith or your religion or God or Hindu or Voodoo or whatever, I don't care. I just want to get you clean and sober, and then you go back into whatever it is that you believe in, hopefully.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 Thank you so much, Ben, for sharing that. Let me ask you, what can you share about Woodland Recovery Center? I know that's who you market
Yeah.
for, and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Woodland is phenomenal. It's right down there in South Haven. Anywhere in Memphis, you can be there in 20, 30 minutes. It's premier inpatient facility. We do detox, we do residential. In residential, it's your typical what people think 30 days or less. Insurance companies did kind of determine how long you're going to be there. But after detox and res, then we have options for outpatient. A lot of my working professionals um, need to do that outpatient from home and kind of go back to work. But we are going to absolutely fight for you to stay in a structured treatment environment for the longest you possibly can, because we all know the outcomes are better when you stay in a structured treatment environment. And so, but when you go into the outpatient sector, we have outpatients in South Haven. We actually have outpatient with housing. You stay there for a few more weeks. You can get a couple of months down there.
Yes.
And then intensive outpatient with housing in South Haven. And then, so we also have a Germantown, Tennessee location, which is outpatient from home and virtual. So you can do IOP in the mornings for 3 hours and IOP in the evening, or I'm
Mm.
sorry, morning or evening, not both. You can't do both, but morning or evening, you get, I don't know how many weeks sessions of that. It's intense group therapy. The name of it is intensive outpatient group
Mhm.
therapy, one-on-one therapy. Um, and then there's also a virtual option there. And there's also an adolescent option for IOP at that Germantown location, it's all virtual at the moment. So any of your kids who are struggling with, any type of substance at all and co-occurring disorders, because most everybody who is addicted has some type of co-occurring disorder, we're going to treat it all. But your primary diagnosis needs to be something around substances. And then I'll talk a little bit about, our parent company is Bradford Health Services. And Bradford Health Services has treatment centers all over the place. Texas, 2 in Mississippi, 2 in Alabama, 1 in Florida, 1 in North Carolina, that is an inpatient facility. They do adults down there, but they also have an inpatient facility for adolescent boys. Mm-hmm. So 13, 14 to 17, adolescent males who are have some type of substance abuse. From what I understand, Red Oak is I haven't seen it personally. I've just heard so much good things about it. It's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I can help your family member get into that. And then we have one in East Tennessee called Cornerstone. And then don't worry about insurance and all that. I'll talk to you about all that stuff. There are some limitations on what we take and what we don't take. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. The biggest thing, or the biggest takeaway you need to hear from me, is if you know someone, if it's you or someone your family member, whatever, that's struggling with addiction, with substance use disorder, alcohol, drugs, whatever, they're working professionals, they're whatever they are, they're pilots, they're nurses, they're doctors, they're homeless, they're living on your couch. You got to get them off the couch. Moms and dads, I'm going to talk to you a lot about enabling. Not going to go down that one right now, but I will tell you some things, some brutally honest things that you need to hear about how you're actually not helping. You're hurting. Yeah. You're hurting your family member a tremendous amount. Now, I'm going to tell it in a very sweet way because I have that ability, unless I need to get break bad on you. But I'm kind of joking, but there's a lot of things that people just don't understand about enabling, and I'll talk to them about that. But the biggest takeaway is, I don't care. Call me directly. You have to call my cell phone. You can look us up on Google if you want to, but call my cell phone, and I'm going to do everything I humanly possibly can to get your loved one into treatment, but I cannot make them. So you cannot hold somebody against their will unless they are a danger to themselves or others. And if that's the case, they're not coming to our facility. They're going to go to acute care psych, which is like Lakeside Behavioral Health, Parkwood Behavioral Health, Delta Specialty Hospital, Crestwind Behavioral Health. There's so many acute care psych facilities. If they're suicidal or homicidal, that's a whole different thing. They have to go there first to stabilize. Now, the good news is after they stabilize, they can come to us. Sure. But if it's just substance abuse along with some other co-occurring, depression, whatever, that's what I do. I can get your family member into detox first, and then the full continuum of care. And the full continuum of care does not need to stop after you leave us. That's where I've been working in the mental health field for a long time. That's where you need to get in to see the Wendy. You need to get a private practice therapist. And you need to see that therapist for hopefully for the rest of your life, even if it's a check-in twice a month. Right. What people don't understand about therapy, and this is where I'm a mental health advocate. Yes, is you don't need therapy you don't necessarily need therapy when everything's going bad. That's right. You need to see your therapist also when things are going good, because what do we do when things are going everything is just way too good? We self-sabotage. And that therapist is going to take that and help you, not do that. They're not going to tell you exactly what to do. They're going to tell you, they're going to work with you and work with your strengths and your weaknesses to find out how to live your life. Because it don't come with an instruction manual. Life is hard. So what I believe the full continuum of care is, and I need to talk about this. One other thing about treatment, y'all, there's a lot of nice stuff that these treatment centers put on marketing material. Like, this is mine. It's great. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful facility. This is actually as true as you can get right here. But there's a lot of stuff people talk about, you know, equine therapy, and there's a lot of different therapies that you get in an inpatient setting. It's all great. It's all really great. But in my humble opinion, the real healing starts when you finish all of that and you get in back into life and you get in to see your therapist, and you're truly getting to the bottom of some stuff. You're going to get great treatment at Woodland. You're going to get great treatment, but some of that stuff is there's a lot of marketing involved with trying to get somebody to come to your treatment center. Like, come to mine, because there's thousands of them, right? But I truly believe that the healing starts when you get out of structured treatment. Anybody can stay sober in treatment, right?
That's right.
Because we're helping you. So that full continuum of care to me is when I see you, coming out of your therapist office, or whatever. If you need some intense trauma work, you need to go to an intensive trauma focused, like week-long intensive. Or something like that, like a EMDR intensive, where you're gone, for an extra few days, and they're called intensives. But anyway, my therapist is actually trying to get me in one. I haven't been able to schedule it, but to me, and I'm 16 years sober, and she's still saying, Ben, you need to go to an intensive. Like, that's how this works. This is the rest of your natural life. Recovery is for life. If I stop today doing what I did yesterday to stay sober, guess what? I got a little bit in my bank account now too. I could go out hard. And I don't want to, nor do I think I ever would, but I'm still a drug addict at heart. And I promise you, it could go off the rails quick if I stop doing what it is that I need to do to stay sober.
Yeah, this is good. This is very helpful. Thank you so much. I just hear your heart coming out through everything that you're saying today. As we wrap up our conversation, do you want to give people your cell phone number? Should they call you? Is there a number? Okay.
Yeah, my cell phone number. I'll give you my email, but as Wendy knows, I am a phone and face-to-face person. You call me. You can text me too. Text is great too. Call or text me. If you want to send an email, great. I might read it one day. It's fine. But if you need treatment ASAP, or if you want to talk or get your family member into treatment, it's 901-517-0681. Call, text 24/7. The company pays me a lot of money to carry 2 cell phones. It's fine. The email, if you want emailed more information, send me your email, or it's ben.dickey, ben.dickey at woodlandrecovery.com. I can send you the flyer, or you can get on Google. Like I said, you can get on Google and look up Woodland Recovery Center if you want to, but call me. You can call the call center. If it's 2:00 in the morning and you don't get me on the phone, call the call center and just say, hey, I saw Ben Dickey on, Against All Odds podcast, whatever. The call center folks, the admission specialists are amazing. I am going to get you connected with them pretty quickly, and the process can move I like the process to move as fast as possible. We can get you in treatment in less than an hour after we verify your insurance and all that stuff. It's a very quick process. It can be. And then if you need to wait a day or get everything situated, that's fine. I prefer y'all not wait. I really do. I hate to see people wait because of all these text messages I have of people who waited one more day. I just needed one. I need one more day, and I'll say yes. And now they're no longer here, and it breaks my heart. But I can't make you. I can just encourage you. I pray for you, but it is ultimately up to you. In the state of Tennessee, you cannot commit someone for addiction unless they are a danger to themselves or others. And if they're not coming to our facility first. They're going somewhere else.
Sure. Wow. Well, Ben, thank you so much for gracing the Empower to Empower You podcast with your heart, your passion, your experience, your story. Thank you so much. I know you've shared a lot. Is there any final, if you were to have a 60-second word of advice or gem that you want to leave? Is there any final thing that I haven't asked you that you wish to share?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Don't get discouraged. Like I said it earlier, when you're down to nothing, God's up to something.
Yeah.
And it's addiction is a disease. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not a failure. There's nothing wrong with you that can't be fixed. It's going to take some work. I have been working on myself for 16 years, and I'm not fixed. I'll never be. I'm way better than I used to be. I have made a tremendous amount of mistakes in recovery. That's the hard part. But just don't give up. Don't give up. Know that there's hope. There's healing. There's a whole journey that you're about to embark on if you make that choice. But you got to make that choice. You have to say the three most powerful words that I said 16 years ago. I need help.
That's
if
good.
you say that, be careful, because God's about to show up in a big way. He did in my life. He sent the police, but that's fine.
Yeah.
He did. He sent the police first, but hey, that's what I needed. And then after that, it's just been a beautiful journey, and I'm so grateful. So grateful for the mental health field, and meeting these folks, meeting you, and it's just a beautiful field to work in.
Yes, absolutely. I second that. Well, thank you so much, y'all. I will share Ben's number. His number again is 901-517-0681. You could also Google Woodland Recovery, but definitely give him a call. And I will share that in the show notes. Thank you again, Ben, for being here today. This is B. Wendy Jackson. I'm glad. I know that you were inspired today by the story. Listen, if you're listening and you're thinking, well, that's not my story. I don't have an addiction. I don't struggle with food addiction. I don't struggle with substance use addiction. But you know somebody that would benefit from listening to this. Please share this podcast. Please share this recording, whether you're listening online or listening on the podcast. Thank you so much. This is B. Wendy Jackson. We'll be back next time with another inspiring episode. Bye for now. Have a wonderful day on purpose.